Hey there, everyone. It's MisterStubstep, and I just finished watching the final part of Attack on Titan that came out today, and I just wanted to do my initial reaction on it. I'm going to have a section in the beginning where I don't do any spoilers, and then I'm going to talk about the whole episode as a whole, and then, just what I thought as a series at the very end. So, wow, I'm blown away. Attack on Titan is one of my favorite series of all time. I mean, it's been 10 years now, since 2013. If you think about it, I was senior in high school, freshman in college. And that was really when anime first started making waves, at least in the Western world, from my perspective. Because a lot of times, like anime and anyone that like read manga or watched anime, where they were kind of looked down upon as like nerds and all that stuff. I mean, I love nerdy things, but ever since, like anime is a cool thing now, which is really exciting. Everyone that was into anime can be open about it. So whether you like Attack on Titan or not, you have to admit that it did, allow for a lot of those things to happen, which is pretty awesome. At least played an influencing factor in it all. So I do have some notes off to the side for me, just so I don't get too sidetracked. But I watched it on Crunchyroll. It's an hour and 24 minutes. It's broken into 4 chapters. So if you remember the first kind of special movie length episode that they had that was an hour long prior to this one, it was in 2 chapters. And then the next 4 chapters, three, four, yeah, wait. No, 3 chapters. Sorry. I'm like tripping out because it was an hour and a half and like 30 minutes for each chapter. I think it was 3 chapters. Overall, great episode. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend watching it. If you don't have a Crunchyroll or whatever means that you watch it on, I mooch off my sister's Crunchyroll. Super excited to have watched it. There was a few parts where it was buffering because it came out like a few hours ago, but overall, great experience. I just wish I had like a TV that I could stream it on. I was just watching it on my phone. But yeah, it was a great episode. A lot of people complain about the finale as a whole, just how it ended on the manga wise. And I think when you have a show as good as Attack on Titan, it just kind of puts it in a difficult spot as far as, meeting all those expectations. When your show is constantly like a 9 or a 10 for all seasons, in my opinion, and then to end on a 9 or a 10 ending is kind of rough. I would say the ending was probably like about a 7, but overall, like the animation and the episode and everything itself, it was amazing. But just like the content and the plot of the ending, I could see where people would come from as far as, rating it lower and making the series look less than it already is. And then, of course, there's a lot of memes behind the final chapter of the final episode of the final part of the final season. There's a lot of memes behind that. Whoever's been organizing all that, the release and all that stuff, hasn't really been doing themselves any favors, but just thankful that it's finally reached its end. So overall, great episode. Please go watch it if you haven't already, and then maybe come back to this video. But now we will get into the episode itself. So, first off, it brings you right into where the last episode brought you, even gives you like a little recap period, which, all good anime do. If you haven't watched it in a while, I mean, if you watched it when it first came out, this would have been about 8 months ago, so it's been a while. I actually just finished rewatching the entire series, so yeah, I finished rewatching the entire series up till today. I had like 6 episodes plus the hour-long special to watch, so I did all that today. And yeah, it brings you right back into it, and at this point, they start engaging all of the past Titans. So they're fighting on Eren, the founding Titan or whatever, and he has like his big, skeleton and all of that stuff. And they're all fighting on him, and all the past Titans are now in play. So you learn later that Ymir, it's her influence, not Eren. Eren just wants to keep pushing forward, sticking with that motif. And Ymir is like, no, I don't want this to end. And so sends all of the previous 9 Titans at them. So pretty intense. One of the first moments you get is Peak, running in. Peak, of course, is very agile with that cart Titan coming in, laying the explosives on Eren's neck. I was like, wow, what a perfect wrap. Just could work at like Chipotle or something. And then right about to set the detonator, and oh my goodness, the Warhammer Titan with the trident of all items, the trident. That was so sick. Or maybe it wasn't a trident. Does a trident have to have 3 spears? Maybe it had more than 3 spears. Whatever it was that spear-like weapon right through. Amazing stuff. And you just see Peak like absorb the impact. The animation, Mappa, just constantly outdoing themselves. Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan. There's a whole bunch of other shows that they do too. I'm pretty sure they're overworked, but amazing stuff. Levi even gets a little combat. I don't know how this man is even moving around with how beat up he is, but he finds the gumption to keep going and has some awesome combat. I would have loved to have seen him at like full strength in this fight, but I feel like they had to nerf him and let the other people shine, because when he can single-handedly take on the Beast Titan and then like all of his previous comrades falling from the tree, like, come on now, he's too overpowered. And then of course you get the when Bertolt, I was never been able to pronounce his name, I'll be honest. he finally, you know, shows himself and comes down, and you just forget how big colossal titans are compared to all the other titans, and just scoops up Reiner like a freaking action figure and like crushes him and like throws him, and it just really puts things because Reiner's a titan, like he's massive, and then the colossal titan just whoop scoops him up like a little action figure. So that was pretty intense. The soundtrack as a whole for the entire episode, I mean, for the series, you could argue the soundtrack is really great for this show. It really sets those somber tones, those action tones. Every now and then, a little like bit of humor, but really good soundtrack throughout the episode. They bring a lot of some previous songs, do little remixes on them. Really nice flavors there. And of course, when all seems out of luck, everyone's like dangling on their last, you know, life, basically, Falco, the Birdman, comes through, and it was an amazing entrance, just coming, scooping everybody up, and kind of just reassessing and regrouping, which was awesome because it was looking very bleak for them. I'm gonna be honest. So amazing entrance by Falco, and then when they discuss their new plan, they drop in, and then it's Reiner versus all like the different generations of Warhammer Titans. This was one of the best fighting sequences. You have to let me know what your favorite fighting sequence or favorite part from this episode was, and your worst favorite part. Please let me know. But this was one of the best sequences. Just all the moves and like seeing these big things do, you know, like the martial arts and like all that stuff. It's so awesome. And then all the Warhammer Titans having slightly different weapons, and then Reiner just kind of like taking it on. Reiner's been getting dogged on a lot in the, you know, last couple seasons, so it's kind of nice to see him get some wins. I mean, the outcome of all the Warhammer Titans, he ends up still getting pretty messed up, but it was nice seeing him knock around a few, which was pretty good. Also, Peak gets to show off her endurance. So in case you didn't know, Peak has really great endurance. I mean, she's not really meant for combat. She's a little squishy, but she's very mobile and versatile. And so she'll get immediately eaten up, and then she'll pop out, transform again, eaten up, pop out, transform, and just that whole sequence of her just being like, I got endurance. I was like, wow, that was pretty sick. Peak doesn't get too much like camera time or whatever because she was introduced later in the story, but still awesome character. Some people say that Peak is their favorite character on the show, so that's interesting. And of course, you have a little bit of the flashbacks of Levi's final order from Commander Irwin. And he's like, why is this the one order that I can't do? Like, this is all I want to be able to do. So he's having those flashbacks, trying to find Zeke and all this mess. Because, I mean, it's the founding titan is massive. So finding body-sized person on that is a pretty tough task. This actually might be my favorite moment from the episode. If you blink, you might have missed it. But when they split off into two things after the plan, Annie and Mikasa, they go to the tail end to find the pig-like titan in order to recover Armin. And in that moment, Annie grabs Mikasa and flings her to catch that pig titan that Armin's inside of. And I don't know why that moment was just so sick, and like her going, oh my gosh, it was such a sick moment. Let me know if you thought it was cool, or if you think I'm lame for thinking that's the best part of the episode, but that was just such a cool part. Armin, of course, in that moment was being gagged. So yeah, he had like almost like a tentacle in his mouth. I know that doesn't help, that if you're into anime, you're into weird things caused, but that's literally what he had. The tongue was like all, and then got in his mouth to keep him gagged and forced him into the land of the paths. You have a moment where Armin is with Zeke, and they're sitting in the sandy path area. So I'm not going to get all the vernacular and everything perfect because I'm just kind of reacting and all that stuff, so I might even miss some obvious things. But we're sitting there discussing the meaning of life. Of course, you got to have a little bit of philosophy in there. And Armin and Zeke just, you know, it's a beautiful message, just talking about how sometimes the little things in life are what mean the most, because Zeke is like, oh, is the only meaning in life just to procreate and just consistently keep populating and all that stuff? And then Armin's like, no, I have this leaf. And then, of course, to Zeke's perspective, it's a baseball, and those are some of their fondest moments. So let me know if you have any fond moments like that just keep you going, or the moments that you keep hunting for, you know? This is kind of a left turn, but Gabby, is she like the best shot of all time, like in any anime? Like, she don't miss. I can't remember what the Sword Art Online and the Gun Gale or Gun, I forget what the gun version of that show was, but like if she was like playing Call of Duty or something, man, she's the one doing the 360 no scopes like off the top of Rust or whatever, because she just cannot miss. She's a sniper for real. She's a sniper for real. Falco better not slip up, because Gabby can Jeez. At that point, after them discussing the paths and everything, of course, Zeke using his Zekiness, he basically gather all the previous Titans that we've been kind of introduced to in the story and basically get them to assist their fight. So then all the previous Titans that we've kind of met, like Aaron's dad, the Owl, like the previous Jaw Titans, all of those previous Titans, and then even Bertold, I freaking hate pronouncing his name, they all start helping, which is amazing because that really turns the tide, because if they didn't have that help, I'm sorry, there's just really not much you can do. So that was a great turn of events there. And of course, whenever that conversation happens, Zeke is able to leave the world of the paths or whatever. I almost want to call it the singularity, but it's like the one path. There's a term that they use for it. And of course, as soon as Zeke shows himself, he's like, Levi, it's I you were looking for, right? And then immediately, no time wasted, no discussion, just sliced off his head. So it was pretty satisfying. And, you know, Zeke was just like, this is what needs to be done. And in that moment, that is when the rumbling stops, because, of course, that key royal blood component is gone from there. So very interesting. Of course, as soon as the head is cut off, the rumbling stops. Jean has his moment, and he actually is able to detonate the explosives that Peak wasn't able to detonate earlier. The neck explodes, and then you have the little squiggly come out. I know there's an actual term for it, and it was funny when that first came out in the manga. A bunch of people like Googled that creature, and like the video of that creature, like the views spiked, and people were leaving comments about Attack on Titan, which I thought was kind of funny. But that squiggly comes out, and Reiner's like wrestling the squiggly. It almost reminds me of like SpongeBob when you have like the giant worm or something. I don't know. It's a squiggly. Reiner's wrestling it, and you know, everybody's able to get away from the area. Armin's been finally freed from that pig creature. Or I guess it's a beast cart jaw titan combination. It was funny because Mikasa was trying to explain it to Annie, like which one it was, and she couldn't give a good description, and then they immediately had a word for it, which I forget what the word was, but like Okapi, I think, something like that. But yeah, Armin's able to detonate himself, which let me know what you think about this. I think the Colossal Titan's power of just being able to set off a bomb like that big is one of the coolest powers across like all anime that I've ever seen. Like, it's very simple and like kind of rah, you know, violence type thing, but there's just something about like, I want to set a bomb off right where I'm standing. Boom! Like, that is just so cool, you know. And especially when they were like describing it, when they were going through like all the warriors past and everything, and like what the strengths and techniques that each of them have, and then they go over the Colossal Titan strength, and you're just like, dang, got to be used sparingly. And then you have what I think is the true mech on mech experience. So it was a while back when somebody mentioned that Attack on Titan is just a mech anime. I like thought about it, and then like, it really is, because they're in the body, you know, they're in the nape, of course, but then they're controlling a way bigger thing like a mech would be. So it's kind of fascinating. But when you have Eren as the Colossal Titan and then Armin as the Colossal Titan fighting it out, it's just like, that's the pure mech battle right there. So throwback to those types of anime. Of course, Armin is like pulling Eren's hair into like punches and all that stuff. So I guess if we learn anything from this episode, Armin's a little bit kinky, because you know, you got the gagging and the hair pulling. So it's an interesting perspective seeing that side of Armin. And then you have the smoked out sequence where the squiggly is basically in desperation mode because Eren's been pretty much taken down, and it wants to get some reinforcements. So it starts spraying it's smoke, basically, kind of what like how Zeke uses spinal fluid, and then it turns everybody that can turn it, all the Eliajins, turn them into Titans. So now it has some reinforcements, and then we start going into some flashbacks, which, you know, of course, Eren has, with the founding Titan, he can pretty much control everything that goes in the minds of them. Actually, now that I think it, should he be able to control Mikasa's mind? Now that I think about it, since he's an Ackerman? And I never thought about that. But anyway, they all have their memories, and of course, Eren and Mikasa just out on their own, just, you know, living together and all that stuff. It warms my heart. Of course, it can't come true. That's what I secretly wanted to happen the whole time, but of course it can't come true. So they have their little moment of happiness together, but it's only temporary. You have a moment in there where, actually, it's when the dream sequence first starts, and then Mikasa's crying, and it basically parallels, you know, the first episode, or when they do the flashback to it, when Eren is crying when he first wakes up. And so, of course, there's all those parallels, because, you know, when you can see the future and the past, just everything becomes one, basically. And I will admit, when they were like living out on their own, Aaron, his like face and model and everything, he looked like such a Chad. I don't know. Like he's definitely a punk in the most recent episodes, and of course everybody likes him with like the man bun and like, you know, the depressed look and everything like that, and people like that look. But like the wholesome Aaron, he kind of gave me like Chad vibes, which I like that. They use really good teamwork because everyone is affected by the smoke besides Levi, Mikasa, and then everyone that's already has Titan, you know, powers. And so they use a combined effort, which is amazing. And of course, Mikasa goes into Aaron's mouth, and that's where he's located. He's like the tonsils, no, the little punching bag back here. That's kind of where like I imagine him. And it's weird when you're reading the manga and you see that moment. It's a very like slow motion. You kind of sit there and like, wow, this is gonna happen, and you really see the facial structures and or their facial expressions. But when animated, it was like so swift. You still see the moments like the somber, but also like you see the relief on Aaron's face. Like finally, like I've been waiting for this moment. And then Mikasa just like happy to finally end it. It's at her own hands, so, you know, very poetic and all that stuff. And yeah, then you go into more flashbacks and you learn how powerful the power of love is. And that was one of the things that a lot of people were like, why is it this way? I mean, if you think about the level of this show, like, I mean, I guess you could make something up or whatever, but they had to rely on something in the end, and it just ended up being love, which I guess is kind of cliche, and everyone's like, all of that just for love. But I mean, if you've ever been in love, you could see yourself doing some crazy things. I don't know about 80% of the world genocide, but, you know, is power love? And throughout that whole sequence, Aaron and Armin are kind of going back and forth, and they're like growing up too. And the final place that they end up is on the beach. And Armin punches Aaron, and then Aaron has his pathetic moment, and this is another moment where everyone's like, that's not like Aaron and all this stuff. Oh, I want Mikasa all to myself and all this stuff. And I mean, he shows a little bit of the selfishness, and Armin's like, are you kidding me, man? So it's, you know, it's a beautiful moment. Actually, it continues on beyond the beach. I forgot about that. And then, of course, Aaron admits that he is that slave to freedom that Armin mentioned, because Aaron's always about like freedom, freedom, freedom. And then Armin's like, no, you weren't actually about freedom. And Aaron admits that he's an idiot. And then this is kind of where it feels like a cop-out type thing of why he did all of these things, because then it's kind of going back on a lot of the things. But I mean, he kind of had a master plan going on. And then they discover the shell from the beach, which of course is the exact shell when they first saw the water. And Aaron had his moment where he's pointing across the seas, like, if we just kill everyone over there, we're good to go. And there was a moment, they ended up just hugging, but I guess if anyone ships Aaron and Armin, that was the moment to do it, because it literally looked like they were about to kiss. I saw it, you know, they're sitting in like bloody water with like guts and everything, but you know, and then of course, since Aaron's been killed, like the last thing that he initiated was to erase the power of the Titans. So all of his friends and everyone that he wanted to have long lives, they can have long lives, because if you have a power of Titans, you can only live for 13 years once you get the power, or like 13 years with the power, and then you die. So he took that away, so now all of them can live full lives and everything like that, which is really nice. And the music that was playing when they had all those reunions and stuff was really good, so that got me my moment. And of course, Levi has this epic moment where he sees everybody in the past, and then he puts, I guess, I don't know if my camera's mirrored, but, you know, he gives his heart one last time, which is really nice. And then Ymir, of course, can finally be put to rest. She was looking for Mikasa this whole time. She was a slave to her love for, you know, a king that just made her miserable for 2,000 years. And Mikasa finally broke that chain. So, wonderful. All of the Marleyans are about to fight again. And then Armin does a little homage to his canon speech where he comes out. He's like, we couldn't be a threat to you. If we were, we would be using our Titan powers. And that shuts everybody up. So that was nice, because I always just think of that canon speech when Armin comes out and he's just like, psh! I like that moment. And then, of course, Historia has her moment too. A lot of people complain about Historia as a character because she has moments where she's like the most important character in the show. And then like there's other seasons where she's like the last relevant character. And so she has a little moment of relevancy. You could see her kid and all that stuff. I think she gave birth the moment that Armin exploded or something like that. So I guess it was like a dual explosion. I don't know. When they do the jump to the future, like 3 years into the future, everyone looks slightly different. I think Peak looks the most different. I don't know, something about her face. She looks way different than, maybe it was just like less animated or something like that. I have no idea. But everyone has like a slightly different style, which was kind of cool to see them in the future. They're about to give a speech to advocate for peace after, you know, all that fighting and everything. And then you see like a little pan of everybody else, and seeing Levi in that state, like all beat up, handing out candy. I mean, I guess it was all right, but I mean, I guess it's kind of a happy ending, but you just wanted to see better for Levi. You know, I know a lot of people, Levi's like their #1 in this show, so at least he didn't die. There was moments where he probably should have, and I'm glad he didn't. And of course, throughout the entire episode, and actually all like the later seasons, just the freedom and the bird and the flying motif just never stopped. Like that was always there. Even in my rewatch, you could see just birds and flying and all that stuff is always referenced and everything, which is kind of cool. And then of course, during the credits, they have, or actually, sorry, before the credits, you see Mikasa at Aaron's grave where she buried him, and she's sitting there and like, oh, everyone's gonna visit soon and all that stuff, and she's getting emotional. And then a lot of people say that Aaron is the bird that comes and wraps the scarf around her one last time. So, you know, that was a very touching moment. And yeah, that got me in my feels. It just made me realize how long I've been watching this show. And during the scene, or during the credits, there is a scene that's kind of going on. And I didn't know if they were going to animate this like these last pages or whatever in the series, but they actually ended up doing it. And so they have what looks to be like way down, like many generations after Mikasa, but the character model obviously looks like she's related to Mikasa, and she's with the dog and she's going out. It almost gives me Last of Us vibes, just kind of patrolling out there. It's almost like apocalyptic, but it's like way in the future. And she sees the tree where Aaron was born, and you like slowly see the gravestone being buried as the time goes on, and then she sees the tree, there's an opening. And I really hope she doesn't have the same mindset as Ymir, because if it turns into that whole thing again, you know, we got another series. But please let me know what you thought of the episode. I thought it was great overall. Favorite moment, Mikasa getting freaking slingshotted by Annie, but let me know what your favorite moment was. Of course, they left the ending open-ended because I feel like a show would be dumb to not leave it open-ended. Because if you want to add on, you can, and if you don't, if you want to add on and money grab, you can money grab. If you don't, you can just leave it at, and people will always wonder for the rest of their life, because sometimes speculation and wonder can build, you know, a lot of hype and discussion around something. But yeah, no, it was a great show overall. Please let me know what you thought. I go off and on whether or not it's my favorite anime of all time, but I think as of right now it is. There's a lot of good ones out there. I'll probably do a top 10 anime list at some point. I haven't really done any like anime related videos on my channel besides me showing off my manga collection of Attack on Titan. But yeah, hopefully they can start reanimating Hunter x Hunter again, and then I can't wait for Bleach to finish up too, because the new animated parts of Bleach have been amazing, of the 1,000-Year Blood War. But that is all I have for this video. Let me know what you thought. This video actually ended up being way longer than I expected. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.